on his face. He patted the wrestler's shoulder. "Now nothing can disturb you," he said. "You are those waves. You will sweep everything before you." The same day, Onami entered the wrestling contests and won. After that, no one in Japan was able to defeat him. 101 Zen Koans. 9. The moon cannot be stolen. Ryokan, a Zen master, lived the simplest kind of life in a little hut at the foot of a mountain. One evening, a thief visited the hut only to discover there was nothing to steal. Ryokan returned and caught him. "You have come a long way to visit me," he told the prowler, "and should not return empty-handed. Please, take my clothes as a gift." The thief was bewildered. He took the clothes and slunk away. Ryokan sat naked, watching the moon. "Poor fellow," he mused. "I wish I could have given him this beautiful moon." 101 Zen Koans. 10. The Last Poem of Hoshin. The Zen master Hoshin lived in China many years. Then he returned to the northeastern part of Japan, where he taught his disciples. When he was getting very old, he told them a story he had heard in China. This is the story. One year, on the 25th of December, Tokufu, who was very old, said to his disciples, "I'm not going to be alive next year, so you fellows should treat me well this year." The pupils thought he was joking, but since he was a great-hearted teacher, each of them in turn treated him to a feast on succeeding days of the departing year. On the eve of the new year, Tokufu concluded, "You have been good to me. I shall leave tomorrow afternoon when the snow has stopped." The disciples laughed, thinking he was aging and talking nonsense, since the night was clear and without snow. But at midnight, snow began to fall, and the next day they did not find their teacher out. They went to the meditation hall. There, he had passed on. Hoshin, who related the story, told his disciples, "It is not necessary for a Zen master to predict his passing, but if he really wishes to do so, he can." "Can you?" someone asked. "Yes," answered Hoshin. "I will show you what I can do 7 days from now." None of the disciples believed him, and most of them had even forgotten the conversation when Hoshin called them together. "7 days ago," he remarked, "I said I was going to leave you. It is customary to write a farewell poem, but I'm neither a poet nor a calligrapher. Let one of you inscribe my last words." His followers thought he was joking, but one of them started to write. "Are you ready?" Hoshin asked. "Yes, sir," replied the writer. Then Hoshin dictated, "I came from brilliancy, and returned to brilliancy. What is this?" This line was one short of the customary 4, so the disciple said, "Master, we are one line short." Hoshin, with the roar of a conquering lion, shouted, "Come!" and was gone. 101 Zen Koans. 11. The Story of Shunkai.
Hello.
The exquisite Shunkai, whose other name was Suzu, was compelled to marry against her wishes when she was quite young. Later, after this marriage had ended, she attended the university,
Hello,
where
guys.
she studied philosophy.
Hi, doggy dog.
Shunkai was to fall in love with her. Moreover, wherever she went, she herself fell in love with others. Love was with her at the university, and afterward, when philosophy did not satisfy her, and she visited the temple to learn about Zen, the Zen students fell in love with her. Shunkai's whole life was saturated with love. At last, in Kyoto, she became a real student of Zen. Her brothers in the sub-temple of Kenin praised her sincerity. One of them proved to be a congenial spirit, and assisted her in the masteries. The Mukurai, Islander, was severe. He kept the precepts himself and expected the priest to do so. In modern Japan, whatever zeal these priests have lost for Buddhism, they seem to have gained for having wives. Mukurai used to take a broom and chase the women away when he found them in any of his temples. But the more wives he swept out, the more seemed to come back. In this particular temple, the wife of the head priest had become jealous of Shunkai's earnestness and beauty. Hearing the students praise her serious Zen made this wife squirm and itch. Finally, she spoke about young consequence. He was expelled, and Shukai was removed from the temple. I may have made the mistake of love, thought Shunkai, but the priest's wife shall not remain in the temple either, if my friend is to be treated so unjustly. Shunkai, the same night, with a can of kerosene, set fire to the 500-year-old temple and burned it to the ground. In the morning, she found herself in the hands of the police. A young lawyer became interested in her and endeavored to make her sentence lighter. "Do not help me," she told him. "I might decide to do something else which will only imprison me again." At last, a sentence of 7 years was completed, and Shunkai was released from the prison, where the 60-year-old warden also had become enamored of her. But now, everyone looked upon her as a jailbird. No one would associate with her. Even the Zen people, who are supposed to believe in enlightenment in this life and with this body, shunned her. Zen was one thing, and the followers of Zen quite another. Her relatives would have nothing to do with her. She grew sick, poor, and weak. She met a Shinshu priest who taught her the name of the Buddha of love, and in this, Shunkai found some solace. Passed when she was exquisitely beautiful and hardly 30 years old. She wrote her own story in a futile endeavor to support herself, and some of it she told to a woman writer. So it reached the Japanese people. Those who rejected Shunkai, those who slandered and hated her, now read of her life with tears and remorse. 101 Zen Koans. 12. Happy Chinaman. Anyone walking about Chinatowns in North America will observe statues of a stout fellow carrying a leaden sack. Chinese merchants call him the Happy Chinaman, or Laughing Buddha. This Hotai lived in the Tang dynasty. He had no desire to call himself a Zen master or to gather many disciples about him. Instead, he walked the streets with a big sack into which he would put gifts, candy, fruit, or donuts. These he would give to children who gathered around him in play. He established a kindergarten of the streets. Whenever he met a Zen devotee, he would extend his hand and say, "Give me 1 penny." And if anyone asked him to return to a temple to teach others, again he would reply, "Give me 1 penny." Once he was about his play work, another Zen master happened along and inquired, "What is the significance of Zen?" Hodai immediately plopped his sack down on the ground in silent answer. "Then," asked the other, "what is the actualization of Zen?" At once, the Happy Chinaman swung the sack over his shoulder and continued on his way. 101 Zen Koans. 13. A Buddha. In Tokyo, in the Meiji era, there lived 2 prominent teachers of opposite characteristics. One, Unsho, an instructor of Shingon, kept Buddha's precepts scrupulously. He never drank intoxicants, nor did he eat after 11 o'clock in the morning. The other teacher, Tanzan, a professor of philosophy at the Imperial University, never observed the precepts. Whenever he felt like eating, he ate. When he felt like sleeping in the daytime, he slept. One day, Unsho visited Tanzan, who was drinking wine at the time, not even a drop of which is supposed to touch the tongue of a Buddhist. "Hello, brother," Tanzan greeted him. "Won't you have a drink?" "I never drink," exclaimed Unsho solemnly. "One who does not drink is not even human," said Tanzan. "Do you mean to call me inhuman just because I do not indulge in intoxicating liquids?" exclaimed Unsho in anger. "Then if I am not human, what am I?" "A Buddha," answered Tanzan. 101 Zen Koans. 14. Muddy Road. Tanzan and Akito were once traveling together down a muddy road. A heavy rain was still falling. Coming around a bend, they met a lovely girl in a silk kimono and sash, unable to cross the intersection. "Come on, girl," said Tanzan at once, lifting her in his arms. He carried her over the mud. Akito did not speak again until that night, when they reached a lodging temple. Then he no longer could restrain himself. "We monks do not go near females," he told Tanzan. especially not young and lovely ones. It is dangerous. Why did you do that? I left the girl there, said Tanzan. Are you still carrying her? 101 Zen Koans. 15. Shoun and his mother. Shoun became a teacher of Soto Zen. When he was still a student, his father passed away, leaving him to care for his old mother. Whenever Shoun went to a meditation hall, he always took his mother with him. Since she accompanied him, when he visited monasteries, he could not live with the monks, so he would build a little house and care for her there. He would copy sutras, Buddhist verses, and in this manner receive a few coins for food. When Shoun bought fish for his mother, the people would scoff at him, for a monk is not supposed to eat fish. But Shoun did not mind. His mother, however, was hurt to see others laugh at her son. Finally she had told Shoun, I think I will become a nun. I can be vegetarian too. She did, and they studied together. Shoun was fond of music, and was a master of the harp, which his mother also played. On full moon nights they used to play together. One night, a young lady passed by their house and heard music. Deeply touched, she invited Shoun to visit her the next evening and play. He accepted the invitation. A few days later, he met the young lady on the street and thanked her for her hospitality. Others laughed at him. He had visited the house of a woman of the streets. One day, Shoun left for a distant temple to deliver a lecture. A few months afterwards, he returned home to find his mother dead. Friends did not know where to reach him, so the funeral was in progress. Shoun walked up and hit the coffin with his staff. Mother, your son has returned, he said. I am glad to see you've returned, son, he answered for his mother. Yes, I am glad too, Shoun responded. Then he announced to the people about him, the funeral ceremony is over. You may bury the body.